In the last segment, we discussed about editing, how editing helps the child to self-correct their work using Ships and Cops methodologies. In this segment, we are going to analyze the errors made by the child and help the child to overcome the difficulties. What is error analysis? Error analysis is a method which helps the teacher to identify the types of errors made by the child. It gives an analysis of the types of errors and it gives a feedback about the learner's progress to the teacher. In our earlier segments, we have discussed about the mechanical aspects of writing and the expressive aspects of writing. These have been discussed in detail in segment number 3, and if you want to revisit, you are most welcome to do so. When we are going to do the error analysis for mechanical aspects of writing, we need to check for formation, position of the notebook, spacing between words, pencil grip and pressure. The support system which is being provided to children with specific learning disabilities need to be very consistent for them to cope and overcome their difficulties. Having discussed the error analysis of mechanical aspects of writing, let us look into the types of errors made by children in expressive aspects of writing. Few points we need to consider when we look into the expressive aspects of writing are fluency, grammar, vocabulary, structure and content. Fluency is the way thoughts and ideas are put to make a sentence, and these sentences are put together to make a paragraph. Children with specific learning disability have difficulties in putting their thoughts and ideas in writing. Sometimes the writing might not be age appropriate and class appropriate. Grammar is the correct usage of words using appropriate punctuations, subject verb agreement and tense shift. Children with specific learning disabilities have difficulties in all these areas. Now, let us look at the difficulties they have in using helping verbs. Helping verbs are verbs which help the main verb in a sentence. Their sole purpose is to help the main verb and convey a meaning. Now, let us look at few examples where a child with specific learning disability tends to make mistakes with helping verbs. I is going to the park. Actually, the correct sentence needs to be I am going to the park. The child in this sentence did not know to use the appropriate helping verb and hence has made a mistake. Now, when we talk about English language, it is very challenging as the language has many exceptions. The child with specific learning disability does not understand the intricacies of the language and hence tends to make these kind of mistakes. Now, let us take one more example. We has the books in the bag. The actual sentence has to be we have the books in the bag. Children with specific learning disabilities have difficulties in using helping verbs. We sometimes adapt strategies. These strategies help the child to overcome the difficulty. The charts can be put up in class and it gives a visual cue to the child for the child to look at the chart and write the correct sentences using helping verbs. Now, let us look at the other type of errors which the child would make. Subject verb agreement. The subject and the verb need to agree in number and make sense. Children with specific learning disability have severe difficulty in this area. Ram rides a car. Ram is a singular noun. The verb rides need to end with S. This needs to be pointed out to the child so that the child understands the subject verb agreement. Let us look into another example. Boys ride a car. Boys is a plural noun and the verb ride has no ending S in it. This needs to be pointed out again to a child for the child to understand the usage of subject verb agreement. Punctuations are symbols that give clarity and helps to comprehend the written language. The most commonly used punctuations are full stops, commas, capitals, apostrophes and question marks. Now, when the child has a difficulty, the child tends to miss out on the punctuations. All these are taught to the child in the grammar class, but children with specific learning disability have severe difficulties in these areas and tend to miss out on the punctuations when they write sentences or paragraphs. Now, if you look at this slide, we have discussed few of the concepts related to punctuation. We are talking about capitals at the end of the sentence, comma and apostrophe. The examples quoted here have mistakes which is typically made by a child with specific learning disability. Children sometimes find it difficult to follow the punctuation and it does not come automatically to them. These need to be taught systematically in steps for them to understand the concept. Children with specific learning disability have severe difficulties in these areas and they need to be taught in steps and remediated systematically. As we know, tenses form the verb takes to show the time the event has happened. Children with specific learning disability have severe difficulties in this. They start the paragraph or the sentence with present tense, then move on to past tense and then continue in present tense. Now, let us look at this example. I went to the park, the ball falls into water, then I stop play. The correct form of writing is I went to the park, the ball fell into the water, then I stopped play. In the correct answer, we are maintaining the same tense, whereas in the first, the way the child has written, the child has moved from one tense to another. Children with specific learning disability need to be taught to use the same tense throughout the sentence or the paragraph they are writing. It has to be taught in systematic steps to them. Now, let us look at the usage of words. Vocabulary means use the right words to convey the thoughts and ideas. The words need to be age appropriate and class appropriate. Now, let us look at this example. Lion is a wild animal. This sentence is age appropriate and class appropriate for a class 1 child, whereas if the same sentence has to be written by a class 5 child, the sentence has to be lion is a carnivorous animal. To help a child to improve vocabulary, please refer to the earlier modules done where enhancement techniques have been discussed. Another mistake made by the child is to use grammatically incorrect form of the words. This is very challenging for children where they tend to make mistakes. For example, Ram cutted the birthday cake. The child needs to know there is no word called cutted in English language. This needs to be pointed out and the child needs to be helped to use the correct words. Errors with sentence structure are commonly made by children with specific learning disability. Run-on sentences are the most common kind of mistake the child makes. They do not punctuate the independent clauses which are together in a paragraph. Run-on sentences are those which have more than 2 independent clauses and they are improperly punctuated. Now, let us look at this example which is given. Now, we have discussed about error analysis. Let us take 2 case studies and discuss about the types of mistakes or errors made by the child and the remedials which can be applied to help the child to overcome the difficulty. Now, this is a sample of a child who is from class 3. Now, let us analyze the type of errors the child has made. First, let us look into the mechanical aspects of writing. In this sample, the child has used a mix of small and capital letters throughout the writing. For this, we have to teach the child the capitals and small letters systematically for the child to overcome the difficulty. If you observe the sample, the child has not started from the margin and the whole paragraph has been written towards the center of the page. For this, the child to overcome this difficulty, the margin needs to be highlighted with the choice of color selected by the child. When the child has written the paragraph, the spacing between the words is very inconsistent. To overcome this difficulty, the child needs to be taught to use one finger space or use the eraser in a vertical position for the child to have one finger space. The child has written, but the size of the letters are not even. To overcome this difficulty, we can help the child to write in a 4-line notebook. There are plenty of spelling mistakes which are there in the sample. To overcome the spelling mistakes, the child needs to be taught the spellings through a multisensory way. In this sample, when we discuss about the errors made by the child in the expressive writing, even though the child had all the thoughts and ideas, it was not organized in writing. How can we help this child to overcome this difficulty? Usage of transition words and graphic organizers would help the child to write better. Now, when we analyze the sample, the child had made lot of mistakes related to punctuation. We can help this child to overcome the difficulty by teaching the punctuation strategies which have been discussed earlier. You will also notice that there are a lot of run-on sentences in the writing. To overcome this difficulty, the child needs to be taught to identify the independent clauses and punctuate it correctly. Now, let us look at the next sample. In this sample, the child has written using a pen. When we have considered the mechanical aspects of writing, we do not know how the child wrote, how the position of the notebook was, and with what pressure the child wrote. All these can be observed only when the child is writing. Now, using this sample, let us analyze the type of errors made by the child in the expressive aspects of writing. This sample is a very bizarre sample where the child lacks fluency, has difficulties in grammar, has not used age appropriate vocabulary, has not followed a structure in writing, and the content, the thoughts and ideas related to the topic are not there. So, to help this child, we have to revisit the remedial strategies from the basics to help the child to write better. Would you like to do the error analysis of a sample which is being projected? Now that you have completed the error analysis, you can look into the table to find out whether the errors have been analyzed correctly.